If you're dying to see what happens next and want to stay 5 episodes ahead in this series and others, then why wait? Join our awesome community of over 500 members on Patreon, where they're already enjoying the latest episodes right now for as little as $2.50 for your first month. So what are you waiting for? Hop over to Patreon after this video and get exclusive early access. With that said, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the page, and I'll see you in the next one. Gogeta's body weaved through Raiko's onslaught with razor-thin margins. Ultra Instinct pushed his reflexes to the absolute brink. Every strike came at him faster than thought, fists carving through space like lightning bolts. Raiko's Godspeed was relentless, his movements an untouchable blur of golden radiance. Then, impact. A left hook clipped Gogeta's jaw with crushing force. Blood sprayed into the void. The impact alone distorted the fabric of space behind him. Before he could fully recover, Raiko followed up, twisting midair into a vicious spinning kick. The blow slammed into Gogeta's ribs like a collapsing star, sending him hurtling backward, spiraling through layers of torn space and fractured dimensions. But he wasn't down yet. Mid-flight, Gogeta flipped, twisting his body against the momentum and skidding to a stop in midair, his boots grinding against the very fabric of reality. A smirk crossed his face as he wiped the blood from his lip. "You want a real hit?" His hands snapped together, energy spiraling violently between them, coalescing into a fearsome storm of raw destruction. His voice roared across the void. Big Bang Kamehameha! Blue light erupted from his palms, the energy screaming across space. But that wasn't all. He wasn't done. His other hand flared with deep violet flames of utter annihilation. Hakai. And then, something never seen before. Gogeta's energy surged as he began merging the two attacks into one, the forces of creation and destruction intertwining in a volatile dance of pure devastation. A new type of energy attack was born, the unstable fusion twisting into something beyond comprehension. Big Bang Hakai-infused Kamehameha, he roared. The colossal beam ignited the battlefield, warping gravity, tearing the heavens apart as it screamed toward Raiko. The sheer heat of the attack carved through the dying planet beneath them, like molten blades through ice, splitting it as rivers of magma surged into space. Everything in its path was reduced to nothingness. Yet, Raiko didn't flinch. He didn't run. He didn't dodge. Instead, he raised his hand with terrifying calm. Shinsoku Mirror Break, a thin, shimmering barrier of divine energy, materialized before him. Transparent, yet crackling with untold power. The moment Gogeta's attack made contact, it didn't explode. It bent. The Big Bang. Hakai infused. Kamehameha twisted unnaturally, its momentum reversing in an instant, hurling back toward its creator with even greater force than before. Gogeta's eyes widened. But how? The attack was upon him in a heartbeat. But Gogeta was faster. His aura erupted violently, shaking the cosmos itself as he threw his palms forward. His energy spiked, his power eclipsing even the divine stars in the distance. Omni-final explosion, a cataclysmic burst of divine energy radiated from his body, infused with Hakai essence. When the reversed blast connected, it clashed violently against Gogeta's explosion. Creation against destruction. Obliteration against obliteration. The sheer force caused the attack to fracture, shattering into 1,000 shards of energy that rained down across the battlefield like falling stars. Each shard struck with the force of collapsing suns. Craters formed in the floating debris, entire land masses buckling under the weight of the destruction. The very fabric of space trembled under the magnitude of their battle. Raiko's gaze darkened as he clenched his fists. "You bastard!" he muttered, but before he could react, Gogeta was already there. His speed was overwhelming. His energy kept rising by the second, an unstoppable force that eclipsed even the strongest warriors of the multiverse. Above Raiko, Gogeta appeared in a flash of light, his hands locked together, his body twisted, momentum building as divine energy surged through his muscles. Dragon Hammer Strike! With a roar, he slammed his fists down onto Raiko's head. A deafening shockwave split the sky apart, tearing through the battlefield with enough force to obliterate entire planets. The impact sent Raiko plummeting downward, crashing through layers of shattered stone, ruptured dimensions, and cosmic debris. His body plunged deep into the planet's core, where the very heart of the world began to collapse. Molten energy erupted from below, bleeding out into the void of space. The planet could no longer withstand the battle. Its foundation crumbled, fractures spreading like veins of destruction. It was over. Or at least, it should have been. Gogeta wasted no time. Omni-instant transmission, a technique beyond the speed of light itself. With a mere thought, he appeared before Brohan, tapping his shoulder. A portal snapped open before them, the very fabric of space bending to Gogeta's command, and in the blink of an eye, they vanished. The planet could no longer hold itself together. The final explosion came like a silent requiem. A single flicker, then nothing. The world was gone, reduced to cosmic dust, lost in the endless abyss of space. But the battle wasn't over yet. Far beyond the destruction, in the presence of something far greater, Omni Gogeta and Brohan re-emerged. They stood upon planet Mercury, not the Mercury of Universe 7. This was something else. Something ancient, something divine, the closest planet to the great sun, the colossal star that powered all others. It was the largest sun in the entire multiverse, the celestial furnace that gave birth to creation itself, a divine star once positioned near the castle of Zeno, before its master's realm was wiped from existence. Its heat burned at a magnitude beyond comprehension, 100 times the temperature of Earth's sun. No mortal, no deity, no cosmic being could exist near it without suffering absolute destruction. Yet here they stood. The planet was gone. Its destruction echoed across the void, the shockwave warping space itself, scattering debris into the abyss. For a moment, it seemed as if Raiko and the Grand Priest had been caught in the devastation, erased by the sheer force of Gogeta's final attack. But then, impact. Two figures slammed onto the barren, molten surface of planet Mercury like falling meteors. The entire planet trembled beneath their arrival, a colossal force rippling outward, shaking its foundations. Even the heavens above seemed to shudder as their presence distorted reality. Both warriors were shirtless, their divine attire having burned away from the raw radiation of the explosion. The air around them crackled with residual energy. Their bodies, scarred, bruised, yet still standing, were proof of the nearly godlike endurance they possessed. They had leaped from the crumbling planet at the last moment, showcasing their divine status by traversing space itself in a single bound. From a distance, Gogeta and Brohan stood side by side, watching intently. The battle wasn't over. Far from it. A deep breath left the Grand Priest's lips as he slowly lifted his gaze. His piercing, ancient eyes locked onto Gogeta. Then, unexpectedly, he smirked. "I thank you, Saiyan." His voice was calm, but something had changed. Gogeta narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean?" The Grand Priest slowly clenched his fists, rolling his shoulders. Brohan's gaze sharpened as he suddenly realized what had happened. The divine Kai threads that had once gripped the Grand Priest's heart were gone. Because of Gogeta's attack, Brohan had been forced to sever them. A mistake, and yet not entirely. The Grand Priest could heal now, but something was wrong. He staggered slightly, his breath uneven. He was healing, but not fully. "You see that?" Brohan muttered, turning his head slightly toward Gogeta. His sharp, battle-hardened instincts noticed what no one else had. He can't regenerate completely. Gogeta's arms remained folded, his ultra-instinct aura flickering as he analyzed the situation. "So what?" he asked. "What does that mean?" A voice, one ancient, powerful, and wise, spoke within Brohan's mind. "Wukong." "Indeed," Wukong confirmed, his presence still lingering in Brohan's consciousness even after their fusion. "His immortality is not like mine. It's conditional. If you force him to use up all his energy, his ability to heal will stop." Brohan's eyes flickered with understanding. "So, his immortality is tied to his energy reserves?" "Exactly," Wukong responded. "But it's not that simple. You still need to find the organ that maintains his immortality. You've already seen that it's not his heart." Memories of their earlier battle flashed in Brohan's mind. The Grand Priest's heart had been gripped by the Kai threads, yet he had survived even when severed. That wasn't it. His head had been completely obliterated at one point, yet he had regenerated instantly. "That means it's neither his heart nor his brain," Brohan muttered. Gogeta's expression remained serious. "So what now?" "Brohan," Wukong continued, "you must find the true source of his regeneration, the organ that allows him to keep healing, no matter the damage he takes. Brohan absorbed every word. He had to listen. Wukong was the master of immortality. If anyone could figure this out, it was him. But then, a question arose in Brohan's mind. Something didn't add up. What if we drain him of all his energy, but still don't know which organ it is? He asked. Does that mean he stops being immortal, since he has no energy to regenerate from? A sharp laugh echoed through his mind. That's a foolish question. Brohan gritted his teeth. What? If he's still breathing, then his body is still using energy. Even at his weakest, he would still have enough energy to stay alive. Wukong's tone turned deadly serious. Immortality is immortality. You can't just turn it off, because his energy is low. His body will prioritize survival above everything. Even if he can't heal instantly, he'll do it slowly, and eventually, he will fully recover. A cold realization settled in. Even if they drained the Grand Priest to his last reserves, he would still heal, just at a slower pace. They had to find the organ and destroy it. Brohan's mind raced, thinking through every possibility. How? How could they pinpoint the exact organ that held the key to his eternal regeneration? And then, an idea. A brilliant, ruthless idea. His eyes narrowed. He muttered to himself, voice barely above a whisper. What if I completely destroy his body, down to atoms? Gogeta glanced at him, intrigued. Huh? Brohan's mind worked quickly now. If I erase him completely, then I can watch which organ he starts to regenerate from. A slow grin spread across his face. Yes, that was it. That was the answer. For the first time, they had a solid plan against the Grand Priest. A way to finally end this battle. Forever. Wham! Before Brohan could finish his thought, a fist, blazing with divine lightning, plowed into his gut. His eyes widened. For a brief second, the world stopped. Then, impact. How rude! The Grand Priest's voice was cold, almost mocking. His knuckles still buried deep in Brohan's abdomen. In all my years, this has never happened before. Me, the Grand Priest, being ignored in a fight. A thunderous shockwave erupted from the point of contact, splitting the ground beneath them. The sheer force of the strike sent cracks spiderwebbing across the planet's surface, reaching out for miles. The very atmosphere trembled, the sky darkening under the sheer power radiating from the ancient being. Lightning snaked across the Grand Priest's arm, crackling as his divine aura pulsed violently. Brohan's body rocketed backward at blinding speed, his silhouette disappearing in an instant. Mountains loomed in his path, but they never got the chance to stop him. The very heat of Brohan's unstable aura melted through the stone before he could even make contact. Entire peaks liquefied into molten rock just from his energy flickering wildly out of control. The landscape warped, twisted, and eroded into nothingness beneath the sheer pressure of his power. If Jiren had been standing here right now, he wouldn't even be able to withstand the force pressing down on the battlefield. This was beyond the tournament of power. This was beyond gods. Mid-air, Brohan twisted, gritting his teeth. Blood dripped from his mouth, his abdomen burning with searing pain. Even fused, even with their insane power, he was still fighting the Grand Priest. He wiped his lip, smirking through the pain. That hurt. High above, the Grand Priest hovered, unmoving. His aura flickered, but his face was twisted in pure fury. He was angry. This wasn't just another battle to him anymore. This was personal. Brohan's breath came heavy, his muscles tightening. He had landed blows on the most powerful being in existence. But this wasn't nearly enough. Then, a voice, ancient, powerful, echoing inside his mind. Stop holding back, boy. Brohan's expression darkened. Wukong, use my power, or at least what you're able to use. Brohan clenched his fists, his energy flaring for a moment. If you don't, you will die. Brohan exhaled slowly. I know that. No, you don't. Wukong's voice was sharp, unwavering. You're still hesitant, still worried about Zeno appearing. You're conserving your power. But if you keep holding back against the Grand Priest, you will lose. Brohan's teeth clenched. He's weakened, yes, but do not forget who he is. He has been alive for millennia, fighting, learning, adapting. He is still beyond your understanding. If you don't fight with your full power now, he will adjust to you. And when he does, you will not win. Brohan's eyes flickered. Wukong was right. He had been careful, too careful, no more. Okay, his breathing slowed, his heart pounded. Then, his eyes closed. and the world trembled. A deep rumbling echoed through the battlefield. Raw power erupted from the ground, sparks of golden electricity crawling up Brohan's body. The planet itself quaked, energy surging from his very being, rippling outward in titanic waves. The heavens darkened, the ground shattered. His muscles flexed, expanding slightly, as his ki swelled to immeasurable levels. Then he screamed, a shout that tore through the sky, shaking the very fabric of reality itself. Golden lightning cascaded around him in violent, chaotic streams. His aura spiraled outward, thick, heavy, uncontrollable, growing larger, denser, hotter. The air itself burned, the sheer heat of his power warping space. Higher and higher, his power level skyrocketed, and it didn't stop. The very scales of power shattered beneath him. He was breaking past limits even the gods couldn't comprehend. His aura became a storm, a hurricane, a vortex of destruction. Power on a centillion scale, almost immeasurable, and it was still rising. High above the fractured planet, Gogeta hovered, his arms crossed, his gaze locked on the battlefield below. The land beneath him was barely holding together. Planet Mercury trembled, its very crust shifting under the immeasurable weight of divine power surging through the battlefield. Then the ground buckled. Cracks spread like spiderwebs across the landscape. The very air shook. A surge of blinding light exploded from beneath the rubble, and from it, Raiko emerged. He was unscathed. Dust swirled around his form, his aura flaring wildly, a burning blue inferno of godly energy. His expression was tense, his usual arrogant composure shaken. A single trail of blood dripped from his chin. He wiped it away absent-mindedly, his eyes now focused solely on Brohan. But something was wrong. For the first time, Raiko felt fear. His heart pounded in disbelief. His golden irises trembled as he watched the impossible unfold before him. Brohan's power, it wasn't just overwhelming. It wasn't just immeasurable. It was beyond him. He refused to believe it, yet his instincts screamed at him, forcing him to acknowledge reality. Impossible! His voice broke through the chaotic winds of battle, his hands clenching into fists, his entire body tensed, his aura flickering violently as his mind struggled to process what his senses were telling him. That Saiyan is stronger than I am? He was witnessing it, yet he still couldn't comprehend it. Brohan's power was in the centillion scale, raw energy output beyond measure. The sheer force radiating from his body had surpassed Raiko's own power level, and not just his. This power alone, was enough to put Brohan on the same level as both Raiko and Cairo individually. Raiko's breath came heavy. His entire existence was being questioned in this moment. A mortal was surpassing him, a being who was supposed to be lesser. To think that a mortal is stronger than both me and my brother separately is astonishing. His voice was quiet now, almost reflective. His arms loosened at his sides as his mind raced through the implications. Zeno has to know about this. But then, something felt wrong. The more Brohan's power rose, the more familiar it became. Raiko's eyes narrowed, his mind turning like clockwork. He could feel it now. There was something off about this energy. His lips parted slightly. Wait. His memories rushed back. The energy. The raw, unfiltered chaos behind it. The essence of a warrior, long thought gone. Raiko's blood ran cold. It can't be. His voice was barely a whisper now. You're supposed to be sealed away. His body stiffened. How did you manage to break free? A revelation hit him like a collapsing star. Raiko's hands trembled slightly as realization dawned upon him. This wasn't just Brohan's power. This was the power of Wukong, the Monkey King, one of the only two beings in existence to ever be granted the title of Avatar, alongside Zalama, the dragon god. Both were the first and only guardians of Zeno's father, the first king of everything. Raiko's head snapped upward, his eyes now burning with urgency. Zeno has to know about this. His thoughts spiraled, but then doubt crept in. This power, yes, it was Wukong's. There was no denying it, but something about it was off. This wasn't Wukong's true power. In his prime, Wukong's strength was beyond divine comprehension. But this? Raiko's gaze darkened as he analyzed Brohan's rising energy more closely. Yes, it was powerful, but it wasn't complete. A smirk tugged at the corner of his lips. Wait, his mind clicked into place. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. He can't be. If Wukong had truly broken free, then there was only one way it could have happened. Zeno would have to be dead. His jaw clenched. That's impossible. Zeno's blood seal was directly linked to his life force. It was the very foundation that kept Wukong locked away. Raiko forced himself to calm down. He was overreacting. He exhaled. The mortal is a Saiyan. His voice was quieter now, more measured. His blood is similar to Wukong's, since Wukong is their ancestor. Of course, their power would feel similar. A laugh escaped his lips. A laugh of relief. Why was I even scared? He shook his head, feeling foolish for even considering the possibility that Wukong had returned. I'm also a guardian, just like him. His golden eyes burned with confidence once again. Sure, if we fight separately, I may not be able to match him. His smirk widened. But when I'm together with my brother, he clenched his fists. We are just as powerful. This was his true state. Indeed, Raiko and Kairo were twins, but not in the way mortals understood twins. No, they were born as one. At birth, their cells had been separate in the womb, but when their consciousness formed, their individual minds emerged. Raiko and Kairo. And then something unexpected happened. Their cells merged again. Yes, they were once a single being, but within that single body, two separate souls existed. They weren't just born, they were created, specifically bred to be Zeno's guards. Their birth had been an accident, but Zeno saw potential. At first, Raiko was the only name that existed, only one body. Then, Zeno recognized what they truly were, and he separated them. He split them into two individual beings, Raiko, Kairo. But then, the unexpected happened. They could fuse. Because they were once one, they had an ability that no other being possessed. Their fusion was neither fusion dance nor patera. It had no time limit. It was their true form, yet they had never fused since that day. Both had their own reasons. Raiko hated the idea of fusion. To him, that power wasn't his own, even though it literally was. Kairo's reasons? Unknown. But now, Raiko was beginning to question whether that choice had been a mistake. Because Brohan's power was still rising. High above, Gogeta stood motionless, his sharp gaze locked onto Brohan. The shift in power was undeniable. Brohan wasn't just growing stronger, his energy was reaching new heights of existence. Gogeta narrowed his eyes. Is this a new transformation? He muttered to himself. Brohan's body glowed with a golden brilliance, his aura resembling Wukong's own divine energy. It wasn't just a change in power, it was a refinement. Above them, the sky split open. The very fabric of reality trembled. Stars dimmed, even the great sun itself, the celestial body that loomed over Mercury, lost its luster in the presence of Brohan's awakening. Brohan clenched his fists, his golden aura swirling violently around him. This power! His voice was steady, yet filled with awe. It's incredible. I'm undoubtedly the strongest Saiyan in history. A voice echoed in his mind. Let's not get ahead of yourself now. Brohan's smirk twitched as Wukong's presence spoke from within. You're powerful, yes, but I'm still the strongest. Brohan chuckled. His power-up was complete. Though this wasn't a new transformation, his aura had changed, now radiating a divine golden hue. It was an extended form of Super Saiyan 6, a level beyond its initial awakening. It was similar to Super Saiyan Blue, which derived from Super Saiyan God. Yet instead of Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan, this was something else entirely. This was Super Saiyan 6 Enlightened, and the battle was far from over. I've had enough of this nonsense. The Grand Priest's roar cracked through the battlefield as he launched forward like a divine spear of light. His body blurred, moving at speeds beyond light, beyond even time itself. But Brohan saw everything. His golden eyes traced the Grand Priest's every movement. Then he moved. Faster than thought, faster than reality, beyond absolute velocity. The collision was instant. Less than a nanosecond had passed before Brohan intercepted the Grand Priest, catching him mid-charge with one devastating movement. His hand wrapped around the Grand Priest's throat. Slam! In one brutal motion, Brohan swung the Grand Priest downward, slamming him into the planet's surface like a comet. Boom! The impact sent the entire planet spinning off its axis, like a baseball knocked out of orbit. The shockwave rippled through space, the planet itself struggling to realign. But Brohan wasn't done. Before the Grand Priest could even react, Brohan rushed downward. Faster! Faster! Even before the Grand Priest could lift his hand, Brohan was already there. a flicker of light. Then, Ruyi Jingu Bang! From Brohan's fingertip, the manifestation of Wukong's divine staff sprang forth. The staff extended instantly, stretching through the battlefield like a divine spear. Then, pierced, the Grand Priest's chest was impaled, the staff nailing him to the ground like an ancient relic of war. A stunned silence filled the battlefield. The Grand Priest screamed, a cry of pure agony. He thrashed, but the staff burned with divine energy, its very presence scorching his essence. Brohan exhaled. He remembered the plan. This was it. Body of 1,000 bolts. The staff ignited. It fractured into pure light, wrapping around the Grand Priest's body like golden chains. Then, the burning began. The Grand Priest's screams echoed across the stars. This wasn't just pain. This was soul-destroying. His very existence was being burned away. Then, his body exploded. A devastating shockwave followed, tearing through the battlefield as his physical form was annihilated into pure energy. But Brohan was watching. The moment the Grand Priest attempted to regenerate, the staff's energy continued to burn away every atom. Every time his body attempted to reform, the energy of the Rui Jingu Bang purged it. He could only regenerate from his core essence. And then, Brohan saw it. There! That's it! His eyes widened in realization. It's not an organ. It's a single cell. That's why the Grand Priest could regenerate from anything. He didn't need a heart. He didn't need a brain. His immortality existed within one single, indestructible muscle cell. The Grand Priest's energy was fading. He was regenerating too slowly. This was the perfect moment. Brohan moved. He charged forward, ready to end it. No! A voice roared as space itself ripped apart. Raiko teleported in an instant, his hand raised, prepared to shut down Brohan's attack. But he never got the chance. Boom! A fist collided into Raiko's face before he could react. His body skidded backward, his arms crossed in an X position, blocking the devastating punch. Gogeta, the fusion warrior, landed gracefully, his smirk unwavering. I don't think so, Raiko growled, steadying himself. But before another attack could be thrown, something unexpected happened. A new voice spoke. A voice not of this battle. A voice of something ancient. A portal tore open in space. From within, a single demonic finger emerged. In the blink of an eye, it grabbed the Grand Priest's last cell and pulled it through the portal. Silence. Then, a voice. A voice filled with malice. I told you, priest, your power would soon be mine. Brohan's eyes widened. The voice, that energy, it was him, the first mortal. Zalama, the ancient being who stood at the dawn of existence. Zalama raised a hand, throwing a relic into the sky. A relic that absorbed the Grand Priest's essence completely. Then, he did the unthinkable. He siphoned it into himself. Brohan's blood ran cold. For the first time in his life, he felt true dread. The portal snapped shut. All traces of the Grand Priest's existence vanished. Brohan clenched his fists. His rage boiled. He wouldn't let this happen again. He wouldn't let Zalama escape. He turned sharply toward Gogeta. Kick his ass, he said. Gogeta smirked. Brohan vanished. He reappeared in the Null Realm, the exact location he tracked down Zalama, the first mortal. And that's it for today's episode, guys. If you watched to the end, then that could be an indication that you enjoy the series. So please leave a like on the video. Thank you and take care.